Hey there, I'm Chalena.
I'm Courtney.
And this is Mysteries at the Coffee Shop. So, this is a podcast where we go over anything spooky, cryptids, true crime, supernatural, hauntings. This is episode 1. So, we're going to go over something a little more local. This is going to be the Chickamauga Battlefield, the lore of old green eyes and other lores from the battlefield. The way that this works is one of us researches a topic and presents it for the podcast. The other one is a blind react. So they don't know anything about the episode once we get to recording. So let's start from the beginning. The Chickamauga Battlefield is in North Georgia. In the 1800s, it was obviously nothing. It was just a big field of rolling hills. Grass. Imagine little, bison or whatever lived out there, grazing, whatever. The land belonged to the Cherokee Nation, specifically a tribe called the Chickamauga tribe. Now, the name Chickamauga is pretty much argued about by its definition. So, some people say Chickamauga means the River of Death. Other historians say that Chickamauga is based off of another word called Chickamauga, which means dwelling place by the water.
The first one is definitely spookier and more ominous.
At this point, it might as well be Chickamauga River of Death because, bad things happen. Bad things happen here, okay? But, Chickamauga is... People just think that that's where the word Chickamauga came from. But at this point, it might as well be called the River of Death. So it was pretty, it was owned by the Native Americans up until they were forced to leave via the Trail of Tears in 1835. After that, I believe it was mainly just used for farmlands.
I can imagine at the start of them having to leave, there was a lot of deaths even just then at the river.
Oh, yeah. So the Trail of Tears is actually, it's not too far from here. I think if you drive towards Hamilton Place on East Brainerd Road and you're about to turn on Gun Barrel, there is a little sign that points to the Trail of Tears. So it's not too far from here. And the history only gets bloodier. So the next big thing that happened in Chickamauga was the Battle of Chickamauga in the Civil War. It is the second bloodiest battle right behind Gettysburg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we live near a really big piece of history. I think it's amazing. Not amazing that it was the second bloodiest battle. It was considered one of the first major wins for the Confederacy, but the amount of people that they sacrificed to make that win was not worth it. And then, the Confederacy lost in the end anyways. But if you ever come down here, you will happen to see people flying their Confederate flags. They are very proud of it. They're very proud of the Chickamauga Battlefield. That being said, I won't go into politics, but that's why you're seeing all that if you ever come down here to visit.
Yes.
Now, the amount of casualties, some people argue, some people estimate, but the amount of casualties is around 34,624.
Wow.
And by the way, I just learned this. So casualties don't mean deaths. Casualties mean killed, wounded, missing, or lost.
Oh. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was casualties? That's a lot of deaths.
Yeah,
and it's
you always associate the casualties with the amount of people that died.
Right, and it's not that. So the Union soldiers, they lost 16,000, while the Confederacy lost 18,000.
Wow.
And the battle only lasted for 2 days, so it was 1863, from September 19th to the 20th. So on the 19th and the 20th, and that one night. Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of deaths for that small, or even just wounds from that small amount of time. That's a large number. Literally
pulled up to the battlefield and just went ham on each other. Okay, really? There's
I feel like especially during this time, there was no today we think about war and it's strategy and planning, and this was just more of I don't know how much planning went into this in the 1860s?
1863.
Yeah, I don't feel like there was much planning. I feel like they went in with the mindset to kill.
Right. Yeah, they definitely did that. And then, like, I believe, like, they even had, like, little drummer boys and stuff, and I can't imagine being, like, a 12-year-old drummer boy. Like, you don't have a weapon. You're just out there. Yeah, you're just out there drumming. You look over and fucking Johnny's head got popped off by a cannonball. Yeah. You're like, what Traumatic. The fuck? Yeah.
Which, me not being from this area, I've heard of the Battle of Chickamauga, but I have never heard details about it. So I don't know. This is all new to me.
Right. It's really interesting, honestly. So, obviously the battlefield is notorious for hauntings and everything just because of all the loss that happened there. So we're going to go over a couple lores there. I feel like you'd actually be really surprised by what we go over. And I do have a couple like stories that I got from people obviously on Facebook, online, and then our own personal stories. So hella haunted. We're going to start with just stories from the battlefield itself. So people go there and they say that they see shadows or soldiers walking. Like, that's a normal occurrence.
So spooky. But I feel like once you get into, like, that mass amount of death and, like, sadness, there's always going to be some spooky stuff going on at night or during the day or anytime, really.
Right. But, like, what's crazy is that, like, it's crazy to me that it's not just one person that sees something. It's like almost everybody here. Everybody's like, yeah, that place is haunted AF. And to be honest, I don't know if they close the park at night because of all the weird shit that happens or because, like, they don't want people to destroy the monument. It's probably both, but...
Yeah, probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, as we go further in the podcast, you will see why they close the gates at night.
Yeah.
People cannot be trusted. But... You know, one of our own personal stories is that my niece, her name is Zoe, when she was a toddler, about 2 or 3 years old, Brandy, my sister-in-law, and her mom were walking around the battlefield just pushing her in a stroller, and this is when she really, like, began to start talking. She did not know what the battlefield was. She's a toddler, and she was laughing, and Brandy was like, why are you laughing? And she was like, Mommy, look at all the people in the fields. She was like, what are you talking about? Look at all the people in the fields. They're so funny. They're all falling down. And so, like, they hightailed it out of there so fast.
That's when I definitely, like, you know, you can kind of, like, an adult, you know that they can, like, fabricate a story. But when it's a child, that's when you really believe it. Because they don't know to lie about something like that or the history of the battlefield.
Right. It is so oddly specific that she was seeing people fall.
It's so spooky.
Like, and you know people just got trampled by horses, hit by like...
It's brutal.
Not a good time. No. And then I know, like, what's crazy to me is, like, it's basically a giant gravesite, but if you're from this area, you know that people use it for, like, picnics and, like, biking and stuff. Like, you go there now and it's so peaceful and people are enjoying their time when the soldiers are, like, rolling in their graves like, Ayo, like, this is my grave. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I feel that's kind of... It's very strange to go and that's where you choose to enjoy your day, knowing, I think you just have that sense of, like, dread on your shoulders, knowing the history of the place. It would be hard to go and, you know, be stress-free at a place like that.
Right. And the messed up thing, so messed up. So when Pokemon Go came out, there were hordes of people going there because every monument and every gravestone is a Pokestop. I can't imagine being a dead Civil War soldier and, like, people don't go to my grave to, like, commemorate what I did or anything. People go because my gravestone gives the best master Pokeballs or whatever. Like, I can't. They are rolling in their graves right now. Like, people are not going to remember the battle. They're going
give
because,
respect.
Right.
To play a game.
Oh, yeah.
Pokemon probably should have thought that out just a little bit more.
I will say, like, one of the stops closer to the Wilder Tower, that thing shoots out, that gives you, like, 10 Pokeballs, okay? 10 Pokeballs. It's a lot. And then there's so many, like, I think there's a gym there, too. You will not be the gym, dude. Don't even try it. It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But also, I know... When I was growing up, like, Graysville Elementary in the other elementary schools, they would take us there to march for 3 miles, and it's called the March for Park. So it would bring in money for the battlefield, and they would take us there in the early mornings and have these little elementary school kids run 3 miles.
Wow.
And I remember sitting on the bus in the morning, and people say that there's this weird fog there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think about it until I was researching this. There is a weird fog there. Mm-hmm. It's there every day.
It's very ominous.
Very ominous. It's beautiful, like, if you go in the morning and look at it. But, like, as a kid, I was looking out the window, and, like, it looked like a fairy tale. Like, it looked like a dream. I was like, this fog, there's something different about it. And there was.
You hear that a lot about places that do have, like, a massive, like, death rate and, you know, just a sad history. There's a fog, and there's a feeling, like, you get that, you know. There's been stories of people go into places where they didn't even know there was, like, a mass death there. And they come out and say, well, there's a weird feeling there. It's like, it's in the air. You just know.
Right. So, that being said, obviously we said this place is super spooky like 5,000 times. One of the most famous lores there is the tale of Old Green Eyes.
No, I have never heard of this, so I'm eager to see what he entails.
So, fun story is when I was researching it, no one could exactly tell me what he was. It's all been speculation. So, Green Eyes, supposedly the original story is he is a Confederate soldier who got his head blown off by a cannonball.
Wow.
So it was just his head that was intact and he lost his body. So, like, he just floats around on Snodgrass Hill, like, looking for his body.
Oh, so it's his head that floats around.
Yeah, it's his head that floats. I was really confused, too, because I was like, I can't, like, if you get your head blown off by a cannonball, isn't your head, like, gone?
Yeah, gone.
Like, yeah. I would, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
My husband was like, no, it's like, I guess the cannonball hit him in the neck or whatever.
Right. Huh.
But he, you know, he searches for his head. Another thing people have said was that it's a large black panther with green eyes running around. And I do have a first-hand account. So one of my best friends, her name is Noelle, her mom lives in the battlefield. I remember driving to her house at night and literally, like, pissing myself while I was driving. And I don't know if it was, I was more scared of, like, something, like, a ghost or something popping out, or them deer. Okay, them deer, they're not nice, okay? No. And then they're not very bright either, so they'll just jump out and, like, murk your car, like, while you're driving. So, I was really careful when I drove there, but her mom was calling Noelle one night and freaking out and saying, like, Noelle, like, there's a panther in the yard, I don't understand, it has green eyes, it's roaming around, and Noelle obviously is like, there's no panthers in Georgia. There's no panthers here. But it's crazy because there's been multiple accounts of it, and my only explanation, like, scientifically only explanation for it would be we do have a really bad feral cat population here, and they can breed with bobcats. Granted, it's not the size of a panther, but, like, it's a possibility of a bigger cat with green eyes. And, you know, us being in the vet tech program, we know that the
Tapum luteum?
Yes.
Something like that.
It's that film in the back of their eyes that reflects light, and it will reflect that green.
Yes. If you have cats at night, you know that if you walk through the house at night, you can see those little beady eyes staring at you.
Right. It just depends on which way the light hits it, but, like, it'll reflect back. I've seen it reflect back yellow, white, and green.
Right.
So I really think it may be that. Granted, like, pixie bobs, that's what they call cats mixed with bobcats. Okay. They're pretty big cats, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Right. If
there was a large cat out there, I think it's sustainable. So, maybe.
And, you know, I think there are some hunters that do say that, you know, how the panthers have the very, like, woman-like scream, that they've heard those screams in the woods of Tennessee. I'm not sure about Georgia, but, you know,
Yeah, mountain lions. Like,
mountain lions.
The first time I heard a recording of a mountain lion
I think that's what I'm thinking about, mountain lions.
Yeah.
It could be one of those,
Yeah, who knows? And some people say that, like, it's a black dog with green eyes, too, which that I also believe. There's a really bad, like, there's not a feral dog population here, okay? People just don't like to leash their dogs here.
Right. Just running around open.
And there are people who do have, like, they do have hybrid wolves here. So, like, not surprised about that one either.
So, back to with the green eyes, do you see more stories of accounts, people saying that it's a panther or just the head of the soldier?
So, I see more accounts of it being a humanoid creature.
Okay.
So there is supposedly, and this is, from what I've researched, this is supposed to be like a Cherokee lore, but it looks like it's pretty much only told by the Chickamauga tribe.
Okay.
Because they're from this area. But he's a humanoid beast with stringy hair and 2 fangs sticking out. Walks around on 2 legs, like really, really crazy looking, They say that when they went to go look for the bodies at night after the battle, that they would see green eyes looking around on the battlefield just among the corpses. So that's the one I've heard of the most. Now, the tale that I got growing up was that if you went to Wilder Tower at night, old green eyes would come out and push you out of the tower.
So is Wilder Tower on Chickamauga Battlefield or near?
It's on Chickamauga Battlefield.
Oh, okay.
I think it's near, like, the south side. Don't ask me, because I have no sense of direction.
I don't either.
Yeah, I know. I go to the battlefield, I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going.
And, there's so many with, like, folklore of, like, humanoid creatures and beasts that roam around. It's always a lot of ones around here I think stem from like parents and grandparents trying to scare children, and it kind of goes through the years, and you almost want to think like whose family passed this down, or
right,
who really saw it, which is really cool. Not cool, but scary.
Yeah. And speaking of scaring children, can we just talk about how my uncle, I was in cross country in high school.
Okay.
I used to run 7 to 8 miles every day. I was not a fast runner, but I could run for a long time. Right. I was an endurance runner. I was not a speed runner. But my uncle wanted me to try to get faster so I could be on the varsity team. Granted, I never made the varsity team, by the way. I was not built for that. I am built like, you've seen the dwarves from Lord. I'm built like that, okay? But he used to take me to run to the Chickamauga Battlefield. We go to around 4, 5. But he would take
Morning or evening?
Evening.
Oh, okay.
Evening. He would take me damn near the evening when the sun started going down. He'd be like, you better run fast or old Green Eyes is going to come get you. And I'm going to leave you if the park closes because the car can't go through.
So what did he tell you Green Eyes was?
He didn't say anything. He said Green Eyes was just going to get me.
Okay, and that's even scarier, not knowing what it is.
You just saw this sophomore, crying and running at the same time. I was like, no! The park's closing! He's gonna get me!
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, no, it was not a good time.
No.
And I never made varsity for it. I was like, man, that
all
stinks.
That scares for nothing.
Right. But what's crazy, though, is the version of Green Eyes that I heard, which is you go Wilder Tower and he pushed him, he pushes you out. It could stem from 2 different stories. So originally, let me check the date here in my notes. Originally in the 1960s, there was a man who, he went out drinking with his friends. They were having a good time. They decided it was a good idea to go climb Wilder Tower.
Okay, now how tall is the tower we're talking about?
Wilder Tower is 85 feet tall.
Oh, that is...
And it's spiral stairs, stone spiral stairs all the way up the steps. I'm telling you, you know how we walk up the stairs at school and get out of breath? You go Wilder Tower, dude, you feel like you're dead the next day. You get all the way up, you're like, oh, this is beautiful. Now you have to go back down.
So is Wilder Tower used as an advantage point in the Chickamauga?
Yes. So it was used at the advantage point. So basically, the Wilder Tower is known as the Wilder Brigade Monument. It's limestone and south end of the battlefield.
Okay.
So they used it to just look across the battlefield.
Okay.
And the Wilder Brigade was the one that, like, defended it.
That makes it spookier knowing that it was an aid in the war.
Right. But anyways, the man in the 1960s, who was drinking with his friends and stuff, he decided it'd be a good idea to jump out the window.
Of the tower.
He thought he was jumping off ground level.
Oh, wow.
My dude did not jump off ground level. My dude jumped like 25 feet.
Oh my god, so he didn't make it all the way to the top and then jump.
I don't quite know.
Ugh.
If he made it. It was really dark, and I don't
Okay.
think they had, like, flashlights or anything, but
he fell an incredible amount of feet.
yes.
Did he live?
Yes, he's paralyzed from the neck down.
Ugh.
It was a horrible idea.
Don't go do things when you're drunk, people.
Right, so that version of Green Eyes, like, you know, it could be, it could stem from that, but also it could stem from another death that was there. So, in 2004, on July 4th, a 36-year-old woman named Crystal Housley, her body was found at approximately 9:15 p.m. near the base of the tower. So what had happened was Park Ranger Eduardo, he was closing up for the night. So you got to close the gate to the tower and lock it up because people are stupid. So, like, I believe since the 1960s, because somebody jumped out of the tower, they started to lock it up at night and have park rangers there.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so this is about a woman now.
yes, this is
So what year was this again? 2004?
2004
Okay.
on July the 4th.
Oh, wow.
So not too long ago, actually. He was closing up for the night, and he saw her at the top of the tower, like on the crown of the tower. Okay, and I don't know if you've never seen the tower.
No.
It looks like a chess piece.
Okay, we'll have to attach pictures.
Yeah.
So that everyone can see
Right.
the visual aid for this.
Right. It looks like a chess piece. So he saw her at the top, and he was like, "Hey, like, we're closing. Do you mind coming down?" And she said, "Sure." So he went to the door to meet her there.
Right.
And he heard her coming down, and then it was taking her a long time. He was like, "I don't understand." And all of a sudden, he heard a thump. She had walked back up the tower and jumped off the top.
Oh, wow.
So as soon as he heard that, he closed that door, walked around, and found her body.
And she jumped from the very top.
85 feet?
Wow.
85 feet. She obviously did not make it.
And you said she was 36 years old?
Yes.
That is so young.
Yeah. It really broke my heart when I was reading this story, honestly, because if you go to the top of Wilder Tower and you look down, it is so scary.
Yeah.
I want to vomit just standing in the middle of it.
Very large amount of feet to be up in the air.
I can't imagine feeling so down, though, that you look at that and that is nothing to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's
very sad.
It is very sad, you know. And what's crazy is, like, her family members reported, like, she didn't have any signs of being depressed or having suicidal thoughts other than, like, you know, the things that we all come across,
Right.
like financial problems and debts and
work stress,
family
problems.
And, like, she just got a new car, she got a new job at a nursing home, and she was a single mother of 2, so she left behind those 2 kids.
Our condolences to the family, for sure.
Right.
And to the man that fell, or jumped out and was paralyzed as well.
Yeah, that sucks, too, because it's just, you just want to have fun when you're a kid, and, like...
Right.
Now
Did you say how old he was?
I didn't get to see how old he was. So this is in the 1960s, so there's not a lot of news articles on it. Right, and, you know, poor Crystal, her death was supposedly the 3rd death at the tower. Hers was the only one that was confirmed.
Oh.
I don't know about the other 2.
Right.
And if they did die, they were unreported.
Wow. Now, you can still go up into the tower to
this
day?
Yeah. So I think they have it open from, like, March to November, and then they have it closed in the winter.
Right.
Hazardous. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine walking up those steps and it's, like, ice? No, you're busting your ass if you slip down.
You're definitely getting
probably hurt. Dying, breaking your neck.
Yes.
No, they close it up.
Yeah. It's probably the best.
Yeah, it's for the best. It is really, like, really dangerous. And, like, dude, I can't imagine, like, being a soldier and having to run up and down those steps. I will take you there one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see it.
You will hate me for it. We will get there, get to the top, and you will hate
not
me.
want to come back down through this.
No, I am telling you, I would crawl. I would crawl up this tower. I was like, make it stop.
I bet.
And, like, you know, with old Green Eyes, if he sits in the tower, dude, I don't think he's pushing people out. I think he's sitting there watching people and just, like, making fun of them. He's like, look at this loser trying to walk up this tower, so out of shape. But that is the story of Wilder Tower. And that, you know, ties into, like, the stories that I heard of Green Eyes growing up. And that was because, like, near those times, people were falling out of Wilder Tower, and like, people knew Green Eyes, and I guess they just assumed that he was pushing them out.
Wow.
Right. So another lore is the Lady in White.
The Lady in White. I feel like I've heard of this briefly, but I'm not too sure.
There's a lot of Lady in White stories.
Yeah. I'm probably thinking of a different one.
But supposedly, during the Civil War, you know, during that time, you'd have to look out on the battlefield to find your loved ones. And I could not imagine that. I can't imagine the grief just looking out on the battlefield and trying to find your loved one among mangled parts. Yes. And, like, they would even send, like, young boys, like, 16 years old. They're just babies.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, a lot of mothers and wives probably went through the scenario where their son had to go to battle, and so did their husband. So they lost both of them at the same time, you know?
Right. Well, now imagine if your family lived up in the north and the other lived in the south. Right. It was a lot of brother on brother, father on son battles. It was so heartbreaking.
It is.
So this woman, she was looking for the body of her fiancé or husband. I've heard different variations. But if you go out on the battlefield and just look near Snodgrass Hill, or anywhere really, but she's mostly seen near Snodgrass, which is where most of the battle took place, so the most blood was spilt there. You'll just see her walking around, just looking down, and she's wearing the Southern Belle style, like, white dress. Some people say it's a wedding dress. But others say that she went to look for his body, never found him, got dementia later in life, and that's all she did was walk up and down the battlefield looking for him, because that's all she could remember. She never stopped.
So sad.
She never stops and say that she stopped eating, stopped drinking, and that is all she did. So she spends all of eternity in the afterlife looking for her loved one.
Wow.
She was so grief-stricken. You know, I guess when she had dementia, all that grief came back, and then...
It's the strongest part that was left of her, you think?
Right. She stopped eating and drinking, which, like, if I were in that situation, I would be the same way. I would not be okay if my husband went to war and never came back. I would not be okay.
No.
I'd be like, no, I'm finding his body. I need his body. I need him to have a resting place.
You want him to be respected in the way he should be.
Right,
and you think about, you know, if our husbands decide to go to battle today, you know, if, you know, they can send letters, and which back then they could send letters as well, but you can imagine how long it took to get back to their loved ones. And now they can voice call and Zoom and Skype, and, you know, if the chance that they do pass in battle, which...
White dog's working.
In the chance that they do pass in battle, you know, you have, you know, a soldier come and tell you in a respectful way that your loved one is gone. Like, back then they didn't have that, you know, so it's just so sad to think that, you know, your son or your husband or your brother went off to battle and you may never know what happened to them. It's very heartbreaking to think about.
Right, absolutely. Like, I can't. My heart would be broken. Like, honestly, I probably wouldn't eat, sleep, or drink either, honestly. No, I would not. No.
And you think of all the stuff that's happened since, what was it? What year did the Battle
1863.
1863 up until, I'm not sure when the last death on the battlefield was, but what we've said so far, 2004, was that many years of tragedy happened on, one place. There's got to be a lot of sorrow and a lot of sadness surrounding the area. It's very sad.
Plot twist. 2004 was not the last death in the battlefield.
I didn't think so.
No. So, in 2015...
Wow, that is very, very recent.
Yes. In 2015, 3 people drove down from New York to go on a road trip to see the battlefields. These people were Robert Martin, Allison Demott, and I believe his name was Dwayne Hollenbach.
Okay.
Dwayne Hollenbach dated Allison's mother.
Okay.
So it was his boyfriend. He was an older man. He was like 56. They traveled down to the Chickamauga Battlefield, and, it was just kind of suspicious because he had been missing in his New York home for a while.
Oh.
No one knew where he was, so I guess they went on this trip and didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, my first question was going to be, why wasn't Allison's mother present? That was that would be my first
right
question about this.
So I talked to you in class about this. What was crazy was the article that had the most information
was not able to be accessed, sadly.
Yeah, because I guess whoever is in charge of coding it was like from News Channel 3. Like, whoever was in charge of coding it did not code it right. So you open it and you can see the text, and then immediately it gets covered up by a Google Map.
Yeah, I think it's a Google map of the Chickamauga Battlefield.
Right, and I was like, this is not what I wanted.
They did not do a good job.
Right, so I did the best I could with the research I had, and so they supposedly took him down to the battlefield. He's missing for a couple days. I hate this part. So they took him on a trail.
And this is on the battlefield.
Yes, so the battlefield has a lot of smaller trails. It has a lot of horse trails, hiking trails.
Okay.
They took him there and killed him with blunt force trauma to the head and left his body there.
And you said he was older?
Yes, he was 59. His body was not discovered until a day or two later. And initially, what happened was they arrested Allison. And then they found out that her boyfriend, Robert Martin, was involved. And this was like... This was a case that had to have a lot of collaboration because there was already a case in New York, and then there was a case here.
So there was a case against them up in New York as well?
Right, for his disappearance.
Okay, yeah.
And then, so the Georgia Bureau of Investigation got involved, and the Fort Oglethorpe Police got involved.
Right.
And I didn't hear about this, which is crazy, because it's like right down the street from me.
It's very close to home.
Right, and I did not hear about this, but this happened in December 12th of 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, and before his body was discovered, like, again, they were looking for him.
That's so sad.
So, what led them to finding his body was the paper trail that the two left behind using his credit cards and stuff. There are some interviews with previous coworkers of Allison saying that she was back on drugs. Supposedly they were on meth. I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Again, I couldn't get a lot of resources, and I didn't know of any other motives behind it other than like they wanted to take his money for drugs. So they got charged with murder, and then they got charged with elderly abuse.
Wow.
That is so sad. Taking advantage of an elderly person. Now, they didn't get sentenced until 2019.
Oh, wow. That's
4
years.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Was it because of I know things that, when you have cases that are across state lines, especially so far up north, and you have the NYPD collaborating with our police department, or y'all's police department, things get pretty messy, because a lot of times people don't want to step on people's toes, and then some people want to be the ones to, crack the case, and best case scenario, everything goes smoothly, but it still takes a long time. You're collaborating so far away.
Right. Yeah, I think that's why it did take a long time. But it just took forever, you know?
That's so sad for all the families involved, especially her mother. She lost, her daughter to this crime, and then her boyfriend to this crime, and one took the other away from her, and it's just, I think a lot of times people look and their condolences are given to the victims' families, but, I think it's easy to forget that, Allison and Robert did commit this crime, but in a way, their family lost them as well.
Right, and it's sad all around, but that one was the most recent death.
Wow.
I do want to go back to Green Eyes, because it looks like I did forget a note. Forgive me, this is our first episode, okay?
It's gonna be a work in progress.
A hot mess express.
For a little while.
So I said that, old Green Eyes, some people speculated he was a Native American lore with, like, the long stringy hair and the green eyes, obviously, and then the sharp fangs sticking out. Well, some people also speculate that he is Sasquatch. Dun dun dun.
Being so close to the Appalachians in Tennessee and stuff, you would expect that to come up in this, I guess.
Right? Yeah, we are that close. So Sasquatch, he's known to roam the Appalachian Mountains, and we are at a place where we're literally right there, like where it just touches North Georgia, like just a tip. But we're known as the Tennessee Valley here in Chattanooga. So we are right between the Ridge and Valley Appalachian and the Cumberland Plateau, where he has been seen. So.
I am where I live in Tennessee is part of the Cumberland Plateau. It's all mountains where I'm from. There's a lot of just open, woodsy space for the unknown to roam.
Right. And then where I'm from, Ringgold. Ringgold, Georgia. You sit on the football field and you can see all the mountains. So we're like right in the valley. And I will tell you, this place floods so much. So have you ever seen a cow swim? Oh yeah, I've seen a cow swim.
Thankfully, where I grew up, we were literally on the mountains, so we didn't have much flooding until you did go down the mountain into the valley. So
great. So we've talked about Green Eyes and the Lady in White. Well, get ready for this topic. It is the Headless Horseman of the Chickamauga Battlefield.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have our own Headless Horseman, which. When I read this, I was like, man, if I knew this as a kid, I would have pooped myself going to the battlefield, because I never watched The Legend of Sleepy Hollow because I was so scared of it.
Yeah.
But
if, probably not, but, they said the old Green Eyes is just ahead, and then you've got the Headless Horseman. Wonder if they have any correspondence with each other.
I was like, can y'all just come together and be one?
Find your peace.
Right.
I also wanted to ask before we do move on to the Headless Horseman, wonder if the green has any sort of significance to, no matter what form old Green Eyes takes, it always seems like people really distinctly see the green eyes. I would want to know if it means anything.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure it has a meaning somewhere. It probably got lost, down the years. But it's just it's strange that everyone sees the green eyes. No matter what shape it takes, the green eyes are still there.
The green eyes is always there.
Right.
And again, it goes back to could it possibly be an animal that's, reflecting back the green? Right. Because there's nothing in my head that would be green and glowing back in 1863.
Yeah,
Other than that. And, they're like, oh, he walked among the corpses, and it's like, that's a free meal. That's fucked up.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, just thinking of we work with animals, we know how their instincts are, they're gonna, especially a wild animal like a mountain lion, or let's just say we did have a panther. They smell blood, and they're predatory animals. They're gonna want to feast.
Free food.
Yeah, it's morbid and it's disturbing, but that's where my thought went. Where the panther lore originated was an animal trying to survive.
Yeah. I've never actually heard of him attacking anybody. Granted, who would you attack when you got just buffet laid out in front of you? And that's really messed up, but it's true. you know, I would imagine the wildlife, like, they were fed well.
Yeah.
At that time.
And they don't know any better.
Yeah,
Instinct.
Right, that's the only thing. But yeah, the Headless Horseman and Green Eyes, they could form to be one man.
One has what the other needs.
Exactly. So let me tell you this story.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit morbid.
Okay.
I'm not laughing because I'm not laughing. It's not funny.
It's just uncomfy.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
So the Headless Horseman, I actually have a name to this ghost. But we'll start with this. So, people say that when you walk down the horse trails, you can hear hooves, like plopping. Is it called plopping?
Galloping,
plopping, whatever horses do. You can hear it go down the trail.
Right.
And then people will turn around and just be horrified to see a man on a horse, but he ain't got no head.
Ugh.
And it'll run at you at full speed, and people would get scared and jump out of the way, and as soon as they turn around to see, it's gone.
It's nothing.
It's nothing.
Man.
It's nothing. And, like, again, like I said, there's a lot of horse trails there, so, like,
Right.
maybe that plays into people thinking that. I don't
Right.
know. But, he's been spotted throughout the battlefield.
And would you say he's more consistent than the old Green Eyes lore?
Probably not.
Probably
I
not.
probably see about Green Eyes more. I do have a couple more when we get to the end, but it's not, like, they're not significant.
Okay. But do you think, like, the idea of the Headless Horseman is more consistent? Like, Green Eyes takes multiple forms. Do you think the Headless Horseman has more one, consistent
Yeah,
scenes?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It is way more consistent.
Okay, perfect.
I actually love this story, as messed up as it is. So,
let's hear it.
It's said to be the ghost of Lieutenant Colonel Julius Garcech. He was a really good soldier, revered for his bravery. He would just run into battle, and he took care of his men. His men respected him.
Was he on the Confederate side?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I didn't look that up. I should have.
It's okay. We can look it up later and add it.
Right. So he died via cannonball to the head.
That seems to be a trend.
Yes. Cannonballs were not nice. And
no.
I will tell you,
it's very scary.
I wish I had taken you to this place before they switched it with the Mercantile. But where the Mercantile antique store is now, there used to be Cloud Springs, like, just antique store.
Okay.
And they had a room dedicated to, like, Civil War antiques. And there would be cannonballs there. I mean, they were shooting, like, bowling balls at people.
Yeah. They were some dense. They were packing a punch.
I mean, like, they were made to kill people. So,
right.
Like, that's pretty...
It's very brutal, which any form of war is brutal, but that's a very brutal and morbid way to go out.
Yeah, I would not want to go out like that.
No.
It's not funny. So he died via cannonball to the head. Reports from, like, letters and stuff say that his head flew off, and then it got kicked by a bunch of, like, there was a stampede of horses, and so his head kind of got kicked around, and then it got squashed.
Oh, gosh.
So that
is grim.
Yep, so he was buried in a shallow grave near the hill. It didn't tell me what hill. I'm assuming it's Snodgrass, so we don't...
So, in the vicinity of the battle.
Right,
where the battle was.
That's where it mainly took place.
Okay.
General William Hazen describes it in this letter, and I will read it to you.
Ooh, an excerpt?
Yes.
From a letter.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that I have this. So, I saw but a headless trunk. An eddy crimson foam had issued where the head should be. I at once recognized his figure. It lay naturally, his right hand across his breast. As I approached, dismounted, and bent over him, the contraction of muscle extended from his hand slowly and slightly towards me. Taking hold of it, I found it still warm and lifelike.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
And this was about when...
This was after, like, his head got taken out,
right,
dude.
And he found...
his body. Wow. He knew who it was, but it was like, yo,
wow.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he is the Headless Horseman, which, like, it would not surprise me if, you just spend the rest of his eternity looking for his head.
Yeah.
Granted, like, it gone. Like,
yeah.
There's no head to be attacked back.
That is so sad.
So this one, the next one, it's the Bloody Pond.
Okay.
It is not... I couldn't find anything on the internet about it. This was word of mouth when I was a child.
Right. So this is kind of stories passed down.
Yeah. I don't know if it's from generation to generation or like just little shithead kids in elementary school making up a story.
Right.
But I did do some research on the Bloody Pond. Okay. And the Bloody Pond is obviously a pond that sits in the battlefield. Is a pretty decent size. So this pond, they said that you would see a bunch of soldiers there, like, just crawling towards it to get some water. It was their main source of water. They'd go in there to drink water or clean off their wounds, and because there is so many dead bodies laying around it, it turned bloody.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. So, some say that if you go at night and you flash a flashlight, you can see how red the pond is.
Oh, man.
I had one boy, I don't remember who it was. I had one little boy in elementary school during the March for Parks trip. He stopped me and said, like, hey, if you go to the Bloody Pond, sometimes you can see, like, soldier bodies in there. Yeah,
So, can you get to the pond now?
Yeah, there's actually a trail to the pond. I haven't gone there myself because, like,
scary.
Yes, there is something with me and like big ponds and water. So I told my husband, I was like, I never want a big ass pond.
Right.
If we get property, because I feel like our children are going to drown, the dog's going to drown, there's going to be a body at the bottom of the pond. I don't trust it. Yes. And it wouldn't surprise me if you did go to the pond and there was a body in there. I feel like the battlefield is the perfect dumping ground for a serial killer.
Yeah. That's as like bad as it is, there's a lot, like when you have, your killers, they want to dump in water. They want to dump their victims in water, and it's just, water is very scary and ominous to me, even when there's no, war tied to it.
Right. It just makes it worse that, like, people, like, went to this pond for sustenance and, like, they just didn't make it and they're suffering. It's so scary.
It is.
So, I do want to go over some more first-hand accounts. So, my dad told me of a couple. Now, my dad, I want to say he's not really scared of many things.
Right.
Like, my family claims that they see things all the time. And I've never seen anything.
I haven't either. I don't have any. I always try to think, like, I hear people's first-hand experiences with, ghosts and cryptids and stuff like that. I have no first-hand experiences, probably because I'm very much a weenie and I like to keep the lights on. It scares me to death.
The tea went through my nose. You're like, I'm a weenie. So some of the stories I do want to go over are first-hand accounts. One of them being from my dad. Now, my dad, he's not scared of anything.
He's a dad.
He's a dad. And my family say that they see stuff all the time, and I have just never seen anything.
Me neither.
I don't know. Well, my mom was always like, they won't come out if you're not scared. And I was like, oh.
See, I am scared, but I like to leave the lights on because I don't want to see anything.
Well, okay.
I'm not built for that.
Yeah. So, I think growing up, my family was like, oh, like, our house is haunted, and, like, the door would close by itself, and, like, and things would fall, and I would just think nothing of it. Like, something would fall off the counter, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not picking that up.
Yeah, no.
I didn't do that.
Not my problem.
Now, anyways, my dad, he worked late nights.
Right.
Swing shift all the time. I don't remember seeing him a lot during the daytime because he'd be sleeping and then he'd get up and work night shift. He said he was driving through the battlefield to get to work, and he always drove through at around 4 to 5 a.m. He said almost every time he drove through, he would see shadows.
Oh, goodness.
Like, just in the peripheral of his eye, see shadows driving down the battlefield. And, like, you can drive through the battlefield at night because there are some subdivisions there. Most people don't like to. And when I tell you, you drive through the battlefield at night, it is pitch black. There is no light.
No lights. Ooh.
No.
That's scary.
And, like, the trees they overhang and stuff. So, like, that kind of blocks out the light. But then, like, if the moon is gone, you... SOL.
Yeah.
SOL. I do have a story from a Randy West. He told me about it via... I asked in the community yard sale group because, like, you know, who else was I going to ask?
Yeah.
So, there's a Randy West. He said he was driving home one night and he saw a young nurse walking home. And it's not abnormal to see people walking home. I do see a lot of people walking to and from school and, like, to and from work.
Or just a quick, run to the store.
Right, around the Fordle area. So, like, that didn't bother him at all.
Yeah.
What did bother him that he thought was a little suspicious was, like, she was wearing a nursing's uniform, but it was old-timey.
Right.
He was like, that's a little weird, but he thought, like, maybe it was one of the reenactors.
Right.
Because we do have reenactments here a lot. And so he pulled over to the side of the road to pick her up, just to give her a ride, because, like, he hated that a young woman was walking home alone at night.
Right.
He pulled over and she was gone.
Oh, that is spooky.
Yeah. You don't know what's spooky is that you want to pull over and pick up a stranger. That's spooky, okay?
Yeah, no. As a young woman, you don't do that.
I don't do that for anyone.
No, I listen to too much, spooky, true crime, scary stuff to, kudos to anybody that does. Just, be careful.
It was
be very careful.
Yeah. I'm sure Randy could handle his own, but it was very sweet of him.
Absolutely. They're very nice.
But
very compassionate.
Yeah, no, if I see you walking through the battlefield at night, no, I'm not picking you up. USOL, you walking home. I'm not doing it.
Home.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, she disappeared. It was crazy.
That's so spooky. Yeah. Especially that she's in an old-timey nurse's uniform.
Right. I do have a story from a man named Ray. He said that one day, him and his daughter were driving home early one morning from Erlanger, and they also saw shadows cross the road.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was spooky. You don't like
so
that?
Spooky.
I don't like that. But, that's all the information I have for our podcast today. So, just ending it on a little bit of a spooky note.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you get the chance to, go down and visit the battlefield. It's beautiful.
After this, I definitely want to go experience, the scene firsthand.
Yeah. No, we should definitely go one day, walk Wilder Tower, catch some Pokemon, have the soldiers be like, yo, like,
I'm here.
You're here for the Pokemon and not me.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be good. So that concludes our podcast today. Our next episode, Courtney will be working on it. She is going to we're going to try to do some local true crime.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we'll get a good case from there.
Yeah, we'll get a good case. And
it's just a little hard because it's not very
well
reported.
Put out there.
Yeah,
reported.
It's not very well reported.
No. And you have a lot of, especially in a smaller town, you have a lot of he said, she said stuff going on, which that's everywhere, but especially in a smaller town when you only have, like, one newspaper reporting, it's a little more difficult, but we're going to try to get a close-to-home story.
Right.
Do it justice,
yeah. So you'll be working on the next episode.
Yes.
It is going to come out when it comes out. We don't have a schedule yet.
We're in school.
We are in the end of our veterinary technician program, so it is getting rough for us. Hot Mess Express.
Struggling through.
We will put out episodes when we can, but I do appreciate you guys listening. So if you really like us, subscribe.
Go follow our
various accounts on Twitter. We are on
Facebook,
YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts.
We will soon be on Instagram and I believe TikTok as well.
Right. We do have a Twitter.
Yes, we do have Twitter.
Courtney's in charge of that. I have no idea how it works. We are also on Amazon Music, and obviously you can catch us on Anchor and Riverside. We do have a link in our podcast description to...
I'm going to shout out our Twitter really fast, because it's Twitter allows you only a certain character amount, so our Twitter handle will be a little bit different than our normal Mysteries at the Coffee Shop handle. So I'm going to go ahead and shout that one out since it is a little bit different. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it is at __coffee shop, and it'll have our logo and Mysteries at the Coffee Shop in the beginning of the Twitter, and I will put our links to our other various social accounts as well there.
Right. And then, yes, we will keep up as soon as we can. Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Just give us a like and follow. And again, in our descriptions of our episodes, there is a little donation link, almost for the poor. I am a poor college student. It's not mandatory, but it is appreciated. It'll just help us create more videos, get better camera quality, and everything. Mm-hmm. So if you want to see more from us, you are welcome to do that. Again, you don't have to do it, but it is very much appreciated. If you want to see a lot of better content, thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely.
Have a nice day.
It's a work in progress.
Yes. Yes.
Be kind.
Be kind. Have a nice day. Make good choices. Please do not do anything stupid. Do not jump from windows. For the love of God. Goodbye.
Bye.